The US government could be forced into a shutdown this weekend, with Speaker Mike Johnson refusing to pass a $95 billion package because it includes money for Ukraine. As Donald Trump edges closer to the Republican nomination, support for Ukraine's defence is becoming increasingly unpopular among the party's membership. Our Washington correspondent Annelise Nielsen meets with some of the voters who are losing faith in funding Ukraine.
Once a month in Utahville, South Carolina, the barbecues are fired up at the Veterans of Foreign Wars post. It's steak night. All the money raised goes back to help fix up the club and support local veterans. Any Friday night, you can find the veterans and their families and friends gathered here at the post for a drink and some company. More than 400,000 former servicemen and women call South Carolina home. About 1 in 10 people in the state have served in some capacity.
We were in Desert Storm. We carried them over, or carried the Army, you know, even the Air Force too.
That's what we used to say in ammo.
Visiting with some club members during the day, we learn there's one Friday night tradition we won't see anymore. They used to observe a moment's silence for Ukraine.
One of our senior guys here decided that he thought we should do it, and so he said that. That's what he said. He said, "Let's have a moment of silence for Ukraine," and we did it for
quite some time, a couple months,
at least 2 to 3 months.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah.
And then, you know, we decided that we were tired of doing that. I mean, that didn't mean we didn't support the Ukrainians against Russia, but it meant that we didn't want to do that every Friday night.
Were there some people kind of getting tired of it, or?
Oh yeah, me and him especially.
Yeah.
getting tired of it and getting tired of all the money that was being pumped through there.
Yeah.
Support is fine,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but billions and billions of dollars being poured into there with no accountability.
That was the issue.
I think their politicians and our politicians were getting pretty rich over it.
Normally, foreign policy doesn't weigh much on the mind of voters, especially at the primary stage, where you're voting for the candidates and not the president just yet. But Donald Trump's isolationist policies are cutting through with his base.
Why are you still a Trump man?
Because he's a U.S. citizen man. And he cares for us, whereas the Democrats and their surrogates, all they want to do is fund everybody else instead of us with the money that we pay in on taxes.
How do you feel about NATO if America were to walk away from it?
I would be fine with that.
When Congress was too deadlocked to vote on the bill that included funding for Ukraine, a recess was called and members headed back to their districts. In an election year, they're particularly sensitive to any voter concerns. So while the world might be watching, hoping the US comes through with more support for Ukraine to counter Russia's aggression, these are the local voices that these politicians are listening to before they head back to Washington, D.C.
The money that we send to them, there's no accountability. There's got to be a limit.
And of course, not everyone agrees.
To keep our sanctity or our way of life here, you have to control somewhat the other worlds. You have to help them out, or the other countries, not worlds, but the other countries. You have to help them out, not to get them on your side, but to make sure that the Putins or Iran or whatever comes in and takes them over.
Annelise Nielsen, Sky News in the Carolinas.